Georgianna Hathaway grew up as a farm kid in the southeast corner of Kansas in the 1930s. Here she remembers those times. What'd you do for fun as a farm kid?
We had a pony, and we rode our pony a lot. Her name was Dolly.
So did you have to take turns, or was Dolly hauling all of you at the same time?
No, my dad, when we'd have bad weather, my dad would take another horse, take two of us to school on that, and then put the other two of us on the pony.
So he would ride you. He would ride you to school.
He'd take us to school.
How far away was school?
About 2.5 or 3 miles.
That must have been kind of rugged in
It
some of those.
I mean, there was a lot of times when the weather was just terrible. But when the weather was bad, my dad would put two of us on one horse with him and two of us on the horse behind us by themselves.
Well, nowadays they have snow days, but they didn't have snow days back then, huh?
I don't think they did. I don't remember
So
snow days.
how would you stay warm riding 3 miles in the snow?
Well, we dressed warm. That's all I remember, really, dressing warm and riding.
What were your clothes like back then? When you dressed warm?
We were on a farm, and I remember wearing overalls. I don't remember why, really.
Did you wear overalls to school?
No, but if I worked at home there, I had overalls.
What memories do you have of your mother growing up?
I just remember Mother and Dad both working hard on the farm. And Mother was special. She baked bread. We used to go home from school about a certain time that she got her bread out of the oven, and boy, we had hot bread.
So you had
bread and butter.
a pretty good snack.
Oh, you bet.
What did your family do for fun during those times?
My parents danced, and we had a great big house, and we had a great big living room that was hardwood floor, and they'd have dances in our living room. They'd have friends come in, and maybe there'd be 4 or 5 couples of them.
And what would you kids do while they were dancing?
I don't know.
Just
we didn't get in on the dancing too much.
Yeah, they probably didn't want the kids quite as...
Probably in their way, we suppose.
Yeah, exactly. Were there community gatherings at that time?
Oh, yeah, they had community meetings and programs. And actually, my family, we had music instruments, a piano, and I played the violin, and my 2 sisters played the piano, and and then that was our entertainment mainly.
So the sisters would play instruments around the house in the evening?
Well, we played, at home a lot. But we took lessons from a music teacher. That we lived in an area where the railroads paid money to school districts, and so we, had money to.
So the railroad was paying.
It was supplementing a lot.
So you had music through the school where some kids wouldn't have.
We had community meetings, what they called, at school.
There was a great sense of cooperation around work. Your father must have had to rely on other people around him for.
We had what we called a hired hand, and of course he helped with the farming a lot. And Dad depended on him a lot. He was from a little town called St. Paul, which was a small town. It was a little Catholic town. And anyway, he hired these young men from there, and because his family grew up in St. Paul because they were Catholic, and there was a Catholic church and everything there. So he'd hire the guys that were growing up and ready to help the farm. We had a big house, and it had 4 rooms upstairs and 4 big rooms downstairs, and the hired men always slept in the bedroom downstairs, and the rest of us was all upstairs. They always got up and had breakfast, and they helped with the milking and all that, too.
So your folks, did they have a particularly hard time during the Depression, money-wise?
You know, I don't think they were ever very wealthy, but I don't know it was a real bad depression for them. But I know that we never had a lot of money. We never had a bad time as far as eating and everything.
So food was plentiful. It's just money was kind of scarce. Would people trade goods for services?
Exchange jobs. I mean, they'd help one another if it was thrashing season. My dad was thrashing or something. Why the neighbor would come and help him, and then he'd go help them, and they all worked together.
Growing up as a kid, what was Christmas like for you?
Well, we didn't have a lot of Christmas. I mean, we had Christmas, all right, but I remember when we were young, really young, we had got dolls, special dolls for Christmas. I don't know.
Where would the dolls come from? Was that something your mother made?
No, my parents would buy and go shopping for us kids at Christmas time and bring home the dolls.
Was Christmas the special family tradition, or were there other things?
I think it was.
What were summers like growing up? Your dad was working out in the fields.
Well,
what were you doing?
he worked in the fields, and us kids helped a lot in the fields, but yeah.
Was cow milking, is that something you did year-round?
Yeah. A special barn that we put the cows in, and they put their heads in the stalls, you know.
So would all the girls milk?
No, my older sister never did milk. She always helped Mom. And my other sister that was just older than me, she and I were the two milkers.
Yeah.
We milked a lot of cows.
I bet there were some arguments around that in the morning, huh?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there'd be one cow that we hated milking because she was hard, you know. My sister and I used to have trouble about that. She told me I milked too slow, so she'd have to milk the mean cow.
Nobody wanted the mean cow.
Nobody wanted to do that.
What did you do with the cream and the milk?
We had a separator. I don't know if you're familiar with the old separators they used to set up, and you had a big bowl thing on the top of it, and you pour your milk in that and separate it. Sometimes we'd hand crank it, and other times maybe we'd be able to put it through a separator without.
What'd you do with the cream?
Sold it. We took it to town, and there was an ice cream parlor there. And we sold a lot of it to the ice cream parlor where they made ice cream.
Did you have chickens and pigs?
Oh, chickens and pigs and turkeys. We raised turkeys, and Mother would dress turkeys for Christmas and Thanksgiving because all the doctors in town would order a turkey for Christmas or Thanksgiving. And she used to dress turkeys like crazy. Did
you help with that?
Oh, you bet.
You said she dressed. I can imagine there was a lot of plucking going on, huh?
There was.
So
not really. You know, it was we knew that was something that had to be done, and we done it because she'd have a deadline, you know, for these doctors and everybody that ordered turkeys from her, and she'd have to dress them.
How many would she do in a Thanksgiving? How many turkeys would she have?
Well, probably 5 or 6, or maybe more.
Did you do them all at once? Was it a big...
No, we just do them as we got around to do it.
So an order would come in and one would go away. And
yeah.
How were your parents as far as instilling the work value with you kids?
They were very good about it, but they expected us to help, you know, with the farm. With like the cows, milking cows in the evening and morning, and
so what would they do when you would whine about it? Or was there no whining that went on?
No whining went on. You went to work.
You knew that you had to work.
Something that happened that was kind of interesting was I got up one morning and took the pony and went to the pasture to get the cattle to bring them in. And the gate was open. Guess what? 2 bank robbers were sitting down there in the car asleep.
Really?
Inside our pasture. But they'd left the gate open. And so I went home and told my dad, the gate was open and there's a car down there under the trees. They had ball willows, so they were small trees, and they pulled the car in underneath that ball willows. And they were there asleep. And I went after the cattle that morning, and I saw the car in there, and the gate was open, and I knew something was wrong, and I didn't go close to the car to see anybody in it or anything. But I went home and told Dad, because it was about a half a mile from where we lived. And he went down there, and he looked in the car, and they were in there asleep, so he went home and called the sheriff. They were robbers.
They slept through all this, and
they slept through most
of it. You guys
of
sneaking around the car and until the sheriff showed
up?
up?
I didn't, that we had to get the cattle out of the pasture. And I just go ahead and get my cattle and drive home, drive them up the road and then tell Dad there was a car parked down there and they had robbed a bank in Oklahoma.
That was Georgianna Hathaway remembering life on the farm in the 1930s.